Well, good evening. Welcome to Space Oddities again. And thank you for joining us for this landing on the moon of the Intuitive Machines IM-2 lander. That's happening in about half an hour. So, Daz, excited about this?
Yeah, because we had one successful one last week, and some stunning images have come back, and some movie shots, especially of the landing. But yeah, and so that was Blue Ghost, and now we need Intuitive Machines to because this is their second attempt. So hopefully this will be the second time's the bargain. So
Indeed,
yes.
indeed. Yeah, you may remember, viewers, that they had a previous attempt with the IM-1 lander, which did in fact land on the moon, but promptly tipped over on its side. So they've done a lot of engineering work to make sure that doesn't happen again. And there we are. Thank you for joining us, by the way, for this launch. And if you're here, why not introduce yourself or say hi in the chat? And we hope that you enjoy yourselves. We will be back yet again tonight because we have the launch of the 8th test flight of SpaceX's Starship later tonight for you. And we'll be going live at 11:15 UK time, or UTC, and we'll have to see what happens. It's been a bit of a difficult week for SpaceX because they've had all sorts of problems. They had problems yesterday with the Starship when they stacked it on top of the booster. The spacecraft hit one of the pins that sort of slides into the bottom of the Starship and positions it. So that was snapped off, that flew off. So they've had to fix that. They also had problems with the chopsticks. They jammed, so they had to put an angle grinder to it while the Starship was in the air to free up the chopsticks so they could move again, so they could lift the spacecraft.
That could have been embarrassing.
A bit embarrassing. But there you are. It's all seat of the pants stuff. So presumably they've fixed all that. Don't forget the earlier launch attempt was aborted just a few seconds before launch because of problems with the fuel pressure in the booster and an undisclosed fault on the Starship, which cancelled the countdown automatically. So that's coming up later tonight at 11:15 UK time here on Space Oddities. We hope you can join us for that. So Daz mentioned the landing of Blue Ghost earlier this week. It seems this week has been absolutely chock full of activities. So we'll just have a look at that. Now, don't forget, this is not IM-2. This is the Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost lander that landed on the moon earlier this week. And they've released this lovely video of the landing. So beautiful as the Blue Ghost lander was coming down towards the surface of the moon with the Earth in the background. And as we know, Blue Ghost is now sitting on the moon. Everything is functioning normally, apparently. We've seen a few photos back from the lunar surface, which have been absolutely wonderful. And it will start science operations about now, if I remember rightly. They've had a few days to obviously check out all the systems on the lander. But here it was when it came down to its final approach to the lunar surface. And what a beautiful shot, eh, Daz?
Certainly was. I mean, that's Earth in the background.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful shot. It did have to do two obstacle avoidance maneuvers as it came down, as it was scanning the surface. It literally knows where it is because it uses its cameras to recognize the surface of the moon, so it knows exactly where it is after a lunar orbiter photographed the whole of the surface. Here we come, we're kicking up dust, and here comes the shadow. Look at this. It's like Space Invaders, isn't it? We're there.
And there we are, and it's down.
And watch the tilt.
Yeah, there we are.
That little tilt.
Yeah. because
was
it did
fantastic.
only manage to plant three of its legs out of four on the surface of the moon, because we don't know. Perhaps it landed on a small stone or a boulder or something. So that was the landing of Blue Ghost on the moon earlier this week. It's been a really busy and wonderful week for space exploration, and it's not finished yet, because, as I said, we got the Starship landing tonight. Then in the early hours of
Starship
Saturday,
landing.
sorry,
Launch.
oh sorry, yes. Well, we hope a landing as well, because they
Well,
are going
yeah.
to,
Hope a catch. Hope a catch.
yeah, another catch if all
And a
goes well.
splashdown.
So then in the early hours of Saturday morning, we have got the launch of NASA's SphereX Infrared Astronomical Observatory and the Punch Solar Observatory into Earth orbit. So that will be exciting. We hope you join us in the early hours of Saturday morning for that. Check the channel for dates and times, because, as we know only too well from this week, everything is subject to change. We're pleased to report that the launch of Ariane 6 that we covered just half an hour ago has gone well, and it seemed to be a perfect launch, no problems reported. It's putting a secret French military satellite into Earth orbit. We can't tell you much more than that because it's secret. So there we are. So, yep, don't say a word. So we hope that we hope you'll join us for those events. And don't forget, please like and subscribe, and please leave a comment on the video after it's on YouTube, because that really helps us get noticed by the YouTube algorithm, and therefore our videos will get recommended to more people. So if you could do that, we'd be very grateful. Even if you just want to say hi, one comment is better than nothing. So who have we got today? Anybody want to announce themselves in the chat?
We got Kev and Heidi.
Oh, Kev's here. Hi, Kev. So Kev says, didn't know this was on. Well, Kev, keep checking the YouTube channel and the website, and that'll keep you up to date with what's going on. Kenneth's here as well. So hi, Kenneth. Hope your weather's okay. Thank you for joining us. And we are now only 23 minutes from the second lander this week to land on the moon. There is another lander that is going to land on the moon, the Japanese Hakuto lander. That's coming up. When is that coming up, Daz? Do you remember?
It's the April, very beginning of April, because the Japanese lander, Resilient, isn't it? It's called.
Yes.
It took off at the same. Well, it was a ride share with Blue Ghost.
Yes.
But they've taken totally different routes to get there. I mean, Blue Ghost spent a lot of time in orbit around the Earth before zooming off to the moon, and then it did several orbits of the moon before it landed. So that took a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But the Japanese one is doing it all gravitational. And of course, that means it's going to take a long time for it to get there, to get cool. At one stage, I think it goes out to as far as, because it's doing loops, Lagrange point one, then it'll zoom off to the moon and do loops around the moon and slowly get captured by the moon, and then it'll come into land. So that's why it won't be landing until early April. I don't think even they've actually put a date on that.
No, absolutely.
But I mean, if you can remember, I think we spoke about this before. We can you remember Keystone for the Artemis, and they launched that, and that did gravitational travel into the moon, and that took about a month or so, and of course everybody forgot about it.
Yes.
But it was quite an important part.
What? Yeah.
Key what?
Yes, Heidi says, what's this mission about? Well, Heidi, it's under the umbrella of NASA's commercial lunar payload services, whereby NASA invite companies to build landers on which they pack different payloads. This particular mission has got loads of different payloads on it. Just give me a minute or so. Just amuse yourselves for a minute, and I'll bring up the details of the payloads.
Yeah, there's some very initiative. How can I say? There's some nice little new gimmicks. Well, we can't call them gimmicks, really, but experiments that are actually
Yeah.
on this one, which are going to help everything. So yeah.
So this is the actual press pack from Intuitive Machines, and if you give me a second, I will actually where's it gone? Okay, so let's just zoom forward, because I think this is going to take a while to get through, because it's on page 96, if I remember rightly. So just give me a second. This press pack is enormous. No, it's not. It's not. It must have paginated. Right. So basically, let's just go back to the first page, which I think is here somewhere. There we are. So I'll just go through this very quickly. So the first payload is, oops, I didn't mean to press that. So the first payload is this drill, which is going to drill down into the lunar surface down to about 1 meter, draw out samples looking for water, because don't forget, the lander is going to land at the south, or near the south pole of the moon, where we know that there is a lot of water ice. Most of that water ice is in the depths of craters that have not seen the sun in probably billions of years, because they're right at the south pole. They never get the sun. And these have been identified from orbit conclusively as containing a lot of water ice. But is there any water ice actually under the lunar regolith, the lunar topsoil, if you like? Well, this drill is going to drill down and find out. So that's a really important experiment. We've also got these retro reflectors. These are reflectors that can be placed on the moon for incoming spacecraft to navigate by, to identify their position very accurately. So that would help guide in spacecraft coming to the moon, and this is a test of those. Then those are the NASA payloads. Then we've got the commercial payloads. The first one is Nokia, of all people. Yes, Nokia is still around, believe it or not, and they are setting up a 4G network on the moon for testing communication, but it's also going to communicate with another payload, which I'll come to in a moment, which is a little thing that's going to hop about the moon, and this will maintain communication with it over the 4G network. That's going to be very important, because the hopper is going to descend into the depths of one of those craters that, as I said, hasn't seen sunlight in billions of years, and it's got a mass spectrometer to look for the presence of water ice in that crater. It's going to make several hops in total, up to a distance of, I think it was about 10 kilometers actually, from the Nova C lander. So this is going to be interesting to see whether this actually all works as planned. Then we've got the next commercial payload, which is a little rover called Yaoki from a company called Daimon Limited, and they are testing rover technology for the moon. You can see there that it's not a big rover, but it doesn't matter. And it's going to scuttle about within 50 meters of the lander. Then there's Freedom. This is a test for putting a data center on the moon. Now, if you're a company, you've got information, data that you basically don't want to lose. And we're talking about large corporations here, basically. Of course, anywhere you place a data center in the Earth is always at risk of something, whether it's earthquakes or fire or flood or whatever it is. But the way of thinking is that the moon is an ideal place to put a data center, because the data will be much safer on the moon. So this is a small unit that's going to test typical data center operations on the moon, reading and writing data, and so forth. And I have no idea what it's called, Freedom, but this could be very useful in the future for companies wanting to protect their data that they can't lose due to natural disaster, or hackers indeed. So we assume that being on the moon will be in a hacker-free environment. The next payload is another rover. This one is called MAP, and this is an autonomous rover that will drive about autonomously. And that's going to be really exciting as well, testing its design for future moon missions. We've got, believe it or not, Columbia Sportswear, and they are providing the sunshade for the lander to protect it against the fierce heat of the sun on the moon. And it's designed from a material that Columbia Sportswear hope to incorporate into sportswear to reflect heat. And we'll see how that goes. That could be quite interesting. This is the hopper I was talking about, the Micronova hopper. It's going to hop around the moon's surface using its own rockets. And as I said, descend into the depths of a crater to look for water ice. And it doesn't stop there. We have a lunar radiometer, which is going to study surface temperatures at the moon's south pole. That will be very important to find out exactly how hot it is near the lunar south pole for future astronauts that land there. And we also have a water snooper. It's an advanced neutron spectrometer developed by a company in Hungary called Puli Space Technologies. And this is actually the thing on the Micronova hopper that's going to go into the crater. This is the thing that will actually detect water ice in the crater if it's there. So there we are. So that is the payload list for the rover. Let me just go back to.
Yeah, they've started the descent burn. They were showing some images from the moon just a second ago.
Okay. Why can I not see that? Ah, that's interesting.
Is this what you're looking for, Andy?
Oh, that's it. Hang on, let's just. That's it. So this is obviously an animation of the final stage. We are now. I can't see the clock. We
it's
are
13 minutes 14 seconds to landing.
Okay, let's have a listen into the commentary then, just for a bit, and see what's actually being said.
It's going to continue moving in its last estimated vector. So, folks at home, you might be seeing the lander touch down on the surface, but the ultimate call of confirmation and what is happening is going to come from that mission director seat. You see it in the small box on the bottom right hand of your screen. That's Dr. Tim Crane in the mission director seat today.
Coming up on 1 minute and 45 seconds since the start of the burn, again, an 11-minute burn using the main engine aboard Athena. And if you're watching the viz and it looks like Athena is traveling parallel essentially to the lunar surface, that's because it is. This is a braking burn. Confirmation 2 minutes in, and a better picture on the viz that shows just
chamber pressure still nominal.
Continuing to get good calls, but the next step will be pitch over. So during that pitch over time frame, Athena will begin to upright itself and prepare to descend down to the lunar surface, and also activate HDA, or hazard detection and avoidance. Can you break that down for us too?
Yeah, we touched on this at the top of the show, Leah. We are going in at about 450 meters for PDI versus our originally planned 400 meters, and that's because we had some uncertainty and variability within the recent landing measurements, going in about 50 meters higher, allowing those flight controllers to manually confirm and screen alternative measurements. But we do expect that our estimated landing time will stay closer towards that estimated 11:30 Central Time. That's 12:30 Eastern. And right now we're standing by, just about to hit 3 minutes into this burn. We're listening.
3 minutes in.
There it is. How about that? And we're listening in to hear for things about how many kilometers uprange we may be. We know this braking burn will continue to happen until about 2 kilometers from our intended landing site. Now that intended landing site is where Athena...
Still processing good depause.
Hey, that's a good call. All right, folks at home, that depause is that delta position, meaning the lander is taking pictures in flight And she's comparing those two pictures together to determine how much have I moved and figure out how fast did I get there in order to affirm that Athena's going in the right direction, making the right moves going forward. Another good thing about DPOS, we're getting good comm. So on your screen at home and you're looking at the viz, you're looking at, what is this, about 16 meters. That may be off, about 16 meters. We'll stand by for a call out to confirm maybe altitude as well as distance to the landing site. But if they're getting good DPOS, they have good comm. Again, we do expect, plan, and train for a loss of comm right around the pitch over time frame, and maybe also as well as we descend towards the lunar surface, making sure that our radios and antennas are in the right config.
490 seconds left in the burn.
490 seconds left in the burn. That's code for, we've been burning for about 4 minutes, Leah. We'll stand by to try to get some more data and call outs here, maybe some kilometers up range, as well as the mixture ratio, trying to figure out the vehicle's performance, that mixture of liquid methane and liquid oxygen going into the engine. Let's take a second and listen in to flight controllers here.
GNC 174 acknowledged.
So far, so good.
Yeah,
Different
looking
mode
good.
inside of the guidance, navigation, and control software called out from Michaela Landivar, if I'm not
Chamber
mistaken.
pressures and temperatures still nominal.
Nominal temperatures, this
450 seconds left in the braking.
450 seconds left in a braking.
5 minutes in.
Code for 5 minutes in.
Again, this is a braking burn, the powered descent initiation, really committing us to our final descent. Earlier this morning, we had the DOI, or the descent orbit insertion, which got us out of lunar orbit itself. And since then, Athena has been completely autonomous. So Josh, is there anything right now that flight controllers can still command on the spacecraft?
That's a good point. I mean, there is an autonomous process that is bringing Athena from descent orbit insertion, triggering powered descent initiation, and then through to the lunar surface. Flight controllers do have a few options to manually intervene. We talked about allowing a little bit of extra time with that additional 50 meters for
400
PDI.
seconds left in braking.
400 seconds left in braking. We're almost up on 6 minutes inside of this burn. But that extra 50 meters is allowing flight controllers to manually confirm and screen alternative measurements, as we did have a little bit of uncertainty and variability with recent landing measurements. By my count, we're just crossing about 6 minutes, Leah.
That means we're
GNC
over.
175 acknowledged.
Another guidance, navigation, and control mode call out there.
We are over halfway into this 11-minute burn using the main engine on Athena.
AFM is in braking 2.
Braking 2, progressing through that PDI count, Leah.
350 seconds left in braking.
350
So they're
seconds
slowing
left.
down. When do
Just
they
crossing
throw out
over
the anchor, Andy?
6.5-minute mark since
soon.
PDI powered descent initiation. This is one continuous burn from PDI all the way down to the surface.
VFM mode is DPOS only.
All right, we're still processing delta position. Those are camera measurements the lander is looking at and making decisions. One of those decisions will be using hazard detection to fly to an intended landing region and then autonomously make those decisions of a safe site, whether that's safe from a boulders or steep slopes. We'll hear those call outs after we pitch over. You'll hear HDA, and that's what we're listening for to figure out where those hazards are and choose a new landing site.
Did you mention the
Now
landing
over
site,
7
Andy,
minutes
where it
into
is?
the burn.
Sorry?
This braking burn.
Did you mention the
30 seconds left in
landing
braking.
site?
Yes, I did.
300 seconds
Yeah.
left. This braking burn.
Engine
Was
is
it
still healthy.
Shackleton Ridge, wasn't it,
And
they were
great
looking at?
confirmation
Yes,
about the engine
Shackleton
itself.
Ridge. That's a
Engine
ridge
is
between
bringing
two
us-
large
176
craters,
acknowledged.
about
Engine is bringing us
50
from about
miles, I think,
4,000 miles
from
per hour
the lunar
to
South Pole,
eventually a soft
if I
about
remember
1
rightly.
meter per second, or about 3 feet per second landing.
And I'm catching a little jitters watching the viz here, so I think folks at home will be seeing the same thing. Remember, this is data being streamed down from a lander that's braking about 4,000 miles per hour, trying to feed that data back 250,000 miles away,
TAL is EBNO at 5 dB.
just to enjoy a little view.
8 minutes elapsed.
Makes it sound like it's hard.
Yeah.
Camera's now in braking 2 mode.
We are still inside of PDI, braking 2 mode.
250 seconds left in braking.
as we
Right,
cross
just
over
give me
8
1
minutes
second.
into
The
this
picture
burn.
might disappear for a second. I'm just going to
Again, about an 11-minute burn.
refresh.
We don't expect the engine to reach full 100% thrust. It's really
One
a
second.
throttled
Don't
approach.
go away.
This engine is designed
Play if we do need to increase the speed of which we're slowing down. You'll hear folks maybe call out the rate of acceleration, but in this case, for us, that's
9 minutes
deceleration.
elapsed.
Crossing over 9
200
minutes.
seconds left in braking.
Yes, just a couple of minutes left in the braking burn, so another look forward to that rapid succession of events that'll come immediately after braking is complete. We will see pitch over begin. We'll be using those
You stop the vid around me. Needs to start again.
Does it stop? Let me just restart.
4 RCS, or reaction control system thrusters, at the top of the spacecraft to reorient Athena before its a final approach, vertical descent, and terminal descent.
And all of those after PDI, Leah, that you just called
5
out, we're
minutes to
expecting
go.
those to happen
5
rapidly.
minutes to land.
We can kind of sit back and let flight controllers really get into what's happening. We'll take a few chances in
LOS
between
on Talos.
to help. There's a LOS on one of the radio systems. Again, expected as we get in towards our pitch over maneuver. Some jitters on the viz.
Quasonics still showing good data.
That's a second radio. So the first one,
Good data on Quasonics.
the first one we heard a loss of
GNC
signal.
177 acknowledged.
The second was a confirmation that the
10 minutes
second
in.
radio, we still have signal. So it's good signal, good data, good viz, and we're watching the show here along with the folks at home.
10 minutes into the burn, so expecting just about a minute more until the end of this braking maneuver.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, nail-biting moments, eh?
We expect
Yeah.
and plan for pitch over just about 2 kilometers away from the intended landing site. That gives Athena a little bit of time to pitch over and start looking forward using her navigation sensors to detect different hazards, as well as her altitude, to lower down to the lunar surface at approximately 1 meters per second if all
LOS.
goes towards plan. There's LOS as we approach our pitch over.
Gosh.
All right, we're approaching 11 minutes into the burn. Local time is
AOS on
11:26.
Quasonics.
11 minutes in.
11 minutes in, we heard another call out that we're up on Quasonics. That's our radio system. It's 11:26 local. I'm looking at a pitch over time at 11:27 in about 52 seconds. So we are coming up over to the pitch over where we expect to have some loss of comms. Earlier we talked about multipath. That is very unique to the lunar South Pole, where our radio signals are using multiple ways to get to the same destination, whether that's from bouncing off the harsh terrain or some different polarity issues down there on the South Pole. We expect to have a weaker than normal signal, but we still want to make sure we get that confirmation, Leah. As part of that confirmation, we're going to safe the vehicle, figure out the status there, and then start working on pictures after everything's safe. Maybe around 2 hours after landing, we can cherish that photo.
LOS on Quasonics.
There's that loss of signal on one of the radio systems as we approach 12 minutes into PDI.
Again, the engine will continue to fire, albeit it will continue throttling down as we approach the lunar surface. And a reminder, the viz is a simulation based on flight data, but if we do lose contact with the lander, which can be expected based on the conditions at the lunar South Pole, we will continue to see projected data on this visualization.
And we're approaching G as in ground to 2 minutes. We expect to drop this clock here in 2 minutes and take all of our commands from inside of Nova Control. The bottom right hand of your screen, that's Dr. Tim Crane, our co-founder and Chief Growth Officer, also sitting in as Mission Director for landing this IM-2 mission. Standing by for the latest information. Let's wait one.
Quasonics AOS.
HRN, HGA, HGA2.
Thales AOS.
60 seconds left in braking.
60 seconds left in braking.
In approach. Landing site selected.
Wow.
Engine and
It's
idle.
going in though.
It's going in. There will be a landing of one form or another.
Quasonics LOS.
There's that loss of signal over pitch over. Stand by, see if we regain that signal. Remember, folks, the viz that you're watching at home is an estimation of data. It's doing its best. That's a lot of data coming from really far away. All commands and all confirmations come from our mission director at the bottom right hand of your screen.
Let's hope it stays upright this time.
Yeah. I mean, last time it was just one of the legs just broke, didn't it? On impact, it came in at a slight angle, and it was traversing sideways, and it just made the leg crumple. But I noticed on this one they've got 6 legs.
Yes, that's right.
So they've overcompensated.
Yeah. Right, so it stops sending data.
Again, we are standing by, monitoring the viz just as you are at home, along with Nova Control.
Should be on the ground by now.
We are approaching approximately the time that we estimated Athena would touch down on the surface.
There we are.
did hear a call out for a Quasonics LOS. That is our radio system, something we expect to happen at pitch over. That's prior to a vertical descent and terminal descent. That latest
How are
data
we doing on signal?
is what you're seeing on the viz. Why don't we go?
We currently are getting our uplink through IM-2, and we have a healthy AGC value, so our uplink is coming in strong for Talas. And then for our downlink, we have a strong EBNO at 17 on Green Hilly, and we are currently not seeing our Quasonics.
Uh-oh.
So we are in Quasonics LOS.
All right, that's a
See our
Quasonics.
signal strong on the spectrum for Talos. I'm not seeing our Quasonics on our spectrum as of yet.
FM, what mode are we in?
We approach 17. That's the last we've seen.
All right, so that's up on one radio, and they do have a loss of signal in the second.
Fido, I'm looking at the SenseXL. Do you see the SenseXL reading?
Let me look.
That's the mission director detecting see if
I
the
am
lander.
seeing a SenseXL 1G.
So that was the mission director, Tim Crane, trying to figure out what is the vehicle sensing. It has 2 inertial measurement units on board. You can think of those as your inner ear. So when he's asking what is the sensed acceleration, that's what he's asking for, is what is that inertial measurement unit, that inner ear, detecting as far as acceleration.
Again, as we've mentioned, the viz here is just an interpretation of landing.
Yeah, let's go ahead and stay on Nova Control. Looks like the viz is hovering. We can't.
Prop, what are you seeing on the engine?
The engine is still in idle at min thrust. We are still seeing chamber pressure.
So we're getting good data. We heard that we have 1 radio up, 1 radio loss of signal. We just heard that we
I'm
have.
seeing guidance's solution for time to go as increasing, just indicating to me that it is the onboard nav state is not decreasing in altitude.
The good news, the HRN laser is now ready to fire.
So we heard that we have 1 good radio sending down data, 1 that has loss of signal. We have prop.
Standing by with a manual command for landed ops.
Yep.
No recommendation at this time.
Yep, we have prop telling us that we have good data. That was someone just commanding. We heard exec mode to go into this firing mode, and someone standing by to get into our landed ops mode. I'll wait for Dr. Crane to confirm here. But if we're pulling down data, we'll see how this goes. Looks like Tim's about ready to jump on the loop and sort out what we saw on the Viz versus what the folks inside of Mission Control are seeing on their monitors. It's a good reminder, too, this public channel that we're listening to here in the studio, Leah, and what people are listening to at home, at the landing party at Lone Star Flight Museum.
All right, folks. I'm showing that we are sensing lunar acceleration. So we're on the surface. Let's evaluate.
All right, let's continue to evaluate. I hear we do have a picture from a portion of the descent. Is that right over there? All right, so that's a picture during braking, about 10 kilometers up
MD,
from
this
the
is
lunar
prop on
surface that
IM-1.
we do have while we wait
We
for a
can
little more
confirm the
information.
engine is still running, and therefore needs to be upright. If we were in a different configuration, the engine would have snuffed.
Okay, so we have confirmation. I believe that was from Con that says the engine's still running. This picture you're looking at, 10 kilometers up during that braking burn, that powered descent initiation, that long burn that brought us 4,000 miles per hour braking burn. Incredible shot.
Yeah, that's
there.
what I'm saying as well.
Some lovely
All right,
images.
there's another view there.
Yeah.
Looks like from this panel we're looking at the garage, so that's Lunar Outpost Map Rover inside of that square right there, Leah. And this looks like it's probably about the same altitude, maybe about 10 meters above the surface. And one more here for everyone. It's about the same altitude there, maybe a little bit more exposure, but these
Camera's still running in HRN mode.
These photos came down for us just a few moments ago. Wanted to share those before we jump back into mission control as flight controllers are looking at this dynamic situation and learning.
Yeah, go ahead and put us in landed ops. It looks like we're down. We need to evaluate that situation, and I'd like to get a picture.
As they say, picture didn't happen.
LOS.
So Dr. Crane's onto it right there. A couple things here, Leah.
FM3402 was acknowledged. AOS on Thales.
What we're hearing in our ears and what folks at home are listening to are not the
Mode
only
20, landed
channels
ops. Check your systems.
that mission
Engine is
controllers are working on. It's an engine shutdown notice. We'll see what comes out of this. But they're all on different loops having separate conversations, so all the information that we have, that folks have at home, isn't necessarily the exact vibe inside the room. So we'll stand by and listen in to see what we have here. I did hear Dr. Crane call out that they are getting readings for
Alright,
lunar
folks, we're moving to
acceleration.
the post-landing core procedure.
All right, Spark, I'm going to start shutting some stuff off as soon as we can.
Copy. Can you meet me on my loop, please?
Feed lines are inerting.
All right, so if we have enough data to be inerting feed lines, that means the engine's no longer running, and it's a state to bleed off that extra pressure. This is part of that safing bit that we talked about earlier, Leah. Looks like our CEO, Steve Altimus, just stepped into the room. That's in the bottom right hand of the box here, talking to the mission director, Dr. Tim Crane. He just called out telling Spark to turn some things off. That's because we need to remain in a power positive state, Leah. Getting that top deck solar array into a spot where we are able to charge, but sometimes you have to turn a few things off to make sure that you're charging and not just burning through that power. All right, by my
Fingers
countdown,
crossed, everybody.
it's been about 22
Yeah.
minutes since we started that PDI, Leah.
That was very strange. That
And again, we were
down, but the engine was
anticipating
still on.
landing at about 11:31
Exactly, burned for a long
a.m.
time,
Central
didn't it?
Time,
After
12:31 p.m. Eastern Time. It can get tricky with communications on the lander when you're in a
Prop, do we have insight to tank pressure if we turn off the Mogies and the Iggies?
We would, yeah.
All right, that's code for the...
If you turn off Mogies, then we cannot inert or vent the tanks.
yeah.
We can bring them back up though, right?
Yes,
How are my pressures?
they're low at this time.
Okay, turn off the Mogies and the Iggies.
Going.
Could we turn everything off except the vent valves?
Yes.
That would be everything except MV103 and MV303.
All right, all this activity is regarding the lander's propulsion system. They're going through deciding on how to vent it. We heard two things there, Leah. We heard MOGIs and IGGIs. That's our motor engine gimbal system, right? And our IGGI is our igniter. So they're working through the process of safing this engine. At the top of the show, we talked about the priorities after touchdown, and being safe was first, followed by pulling down some health status information, and then images. And then just about 3 minutes ago, we heard Dr. Crane go ahead and say,
FM3403 acknowledged.
we'll prioritize images. It's just about 9 minutes after the expected landing. So let's hang tight and continue to watch this problem and challenges unfold inside of mission control. Each one going through, finding this challenge, each one getting solved here. It sounds like they're still working through venting the engine system.
I was going to say, Daz, if that engine's been running for a few minutes, it's probably dug a hole off the
Let's
planet.
power off the cosonics.
Too right, it's
Handle
going to be
on
digging
1
into
that
no
we're gonna run
regular.
Copy.
They won't need
Cosonics
the
is
drill.
currently in idle mode.
Yeah,
Good enough, thank
bit
you.
of a
Sonics is our
starship
radio. There's two radio
FIT-1
systems
launch, wasn't
on
it?
the lander.
Mm.
It sounds like
But,
when we talk about that vehicle health status, we heard some
Just as a
proud
matter of
vehicle
interest,
health status includes
Ariane
being in a
6 has
power positive
deployed
state.
Spark
its
636
satellite, so
acknowledged.
Oh,
that's
okay.
successful.
So we are
That's successful.
communicating, commanding
That's
the
good.
lander and getting acknowledgments back that the lander is behaving as expected. So putting those things together while we wait for confirmation from Dr. Crane, we have an engine that is shut down. We are venting the engine.
Spark 637 acknowledged.
We are getting acknowledged commands from the lander. Standing by for confirmation from Dr. Crane.
And just a recap of some of the timelines so far today, we had powered descent initiation start about 25 minutes ago.
FM3406 acknowledged.
Powered descent initiation is the braking burn that really committed us to coming down to our landing site today. We were targeting landing at about 11:30 a.m. Central Time, so about 10 minutes ago now. Again, still just standing by for some confirmation from the teams in Nova Control, and hopefully a picture that shows the status of Athena on the lunar surface. Landing site today is Mons Mouton. It is the furthest south target for any landing up into this point.
And pretty credible images we just went through. You know, for those to come down during
Spark
this,
638 acknowledged.
during that landing sequence, showing during that deceleration burn, just about 10 meters, I believe that was, over the surface for those images. See who we have in there. Yep, down towards the bottom
Spark
right-hand side
639 acknowledged.
of your screen. We keep hearing those acknowledgments of the vehicle receiving our commands as we stand by for the real deciding factor here. Never a dull moment, Leah.
And we did hear that they were going into
Spark 640 acknowledged.
commanded landed ops. So can you walk us through some of what that means? I know that includes safing the engine as well.
Right, so there's different modes that we need to command, right? At the beginning of PDI, we hear the command for exec mode, all right?
Spark 641 acknowledged.
That's executing the burn maneuver, right? When we switch over into landed ops, it's a different setting.
It certainly
on the
seems
lander in order for us to
complicated
go
compared
through
to
those steps,
Blue
safing
Ghost.
the vehicle
Yeah.
first and foremost. That liquid methane.
Yeah, Blue
leak
Ghost was more or less,
Bring it
oh, it's on the moon, let's go on.
Also,
Yeah.
FM, I'd like a recommendation
Yeah,
on
open the sandwiches.
whether or not we
Yeah.
can tell everyone up. Or if we
Break
can-
out the bubbly. Interesting.
It's going to be a decision on up and down for radios based
Yeah,
on
bring it down
power.
for now. We're taking the same pictures.
I would
I
not
see the
recommend
tin
powering
of
down
peanuts has disappeared off the table.
Oh, yeah.
He did say pictures.
He did say pictures, yes. So hoping to see the status of Athena on the lunar surface soon. We were initially expecting pictures would take a couple of hours to come down as the flight teams prioritized downloading data and safing the vehicle, but this will help us better understand the configuration of the lander.
Spark 642 acknowledged.
Every time we hear Michaela come on the tunes
Porter,
there,
can you zoom in on this view? Actually, give me the spacecraft view.
Spark 644 acknowledged.
getting all these acknowledgments coming through.
No, take task down.
All right, we're going to see here. Looks like Tim's
Star
got a good
tracker's
spot.
down.
Keep powering down things that we're not using anymore. Mission director looks like he's looking up at the screen, maybe they're looking at a little bit of data that we do not have in front of us. Still standing by for confirmation. But we've heard a few steps go through the process, venting the lander system, hopefully pulling down data inside of mission control, confirming Athena's status on the surface. And then finally, it sounds like we've heard a couple mentions of pictures. We've shown a couple from that descent stage.
Well, let's
We're just gonna keep
hope
standing
everything's
by, looking
good.
into NOVA
We've
control
according
here in
to the
Houston,
count,
Texas,
we've
just down the street
been on the
from
moon
Johnson Space
14
Center,
minutes. So
to
let's
find
hope
out
the
the
status of
situation
the
inside
aircraft
of
is
the
good.
IM-2 mission with Athena's touchdown. Again, that was about, nominally, the touchdown time is about 14
Spark
and a half minutes
645
ago.
acknowledged.
Well, while we're waiting for this
Still in
view, this now
contact with
might
the
be a good
vehicle right
time
now. We know
to
the vehicle has shut down. Its engines are
give us a
powered
like
down.
on
We are
YouTube
getting
and subscribe to the
acknowledgement
channel if you
transmissions
haven't
to the
done so
vehicle.
already.
All right, team.
Here we
Keep
go.
working the problem. We're shedding power as fast as we can to keep the vehicle in good health. We are generating power. We are communicating through our telemetry radio, and we are working to evaluate exactly what our orientation is on the surface.
Spark 646 acknowledged. Spark 648 acknowledged.
So good confirmations there, right? We know we're getting acknowledgement. We're sending things to the vehicle. We're safing the vehicle. Now it's time to start
Spark
working the challenge of
647
how
acknowledged.
is the vehicle? Which way is it pointed? Earlier in the show, we talked about the different antennas on the vehicle and trying to work those, but we are charging, which is a very key element to this mission. Looks like the room's filling up with our subject matter experts. Just continue working on this challenge to see where we stand.
Spark
Bring them back down.
649 acknowledged.
If you see
DS is back in low rate.
You see folks walking on the bottom right hand of your screen underneath the camera. That's because the room's situational awareness is about a 65-inch TV sitting underneath of there. So what they're pointing at could be data, could be confirmation. A little hard to see from this view, but as you see people exiting the bottom of your screen on the bottom right, there's a television monitor there that's helping them make some decisions. And as we cross over, it's been about 30 minutes since time of ignition for PDI, and we just hit 16 minutes since our nominal landing. If you're just joining us, we know we are sending commands to the vehicle. We have shut off equipment that has not been necessary. We know that we have an engine that has been shut off. We've commanded the vehicle into surface operations. We just heard from Dr. Tim Crane that we are generating power. We're turning things off that are no longer required. We heard one of them being the star tracker. It's one of the tools that we use to figure out Athena's position in space during flight. We're in landed ops. Now we're just standing by to hear what the full situation is. About 16 and a half minutes since nominal landing time, and a little over 31 minutes since Athena commanded her final engine burn.
Spark
PDI.
651 acknowledged.
And like you said, Josh, we are
Order,
communicating.
go ahead and turn on the displays for all the antennas.
We're
Okay, so
communicating.
you're going to see everyone looking up at the screen here. So when they're calling back to order, that's actually
Spark
in
652
the
acknowledged.
back left of the bottom right monitor. They're changing screens inside the room, situational awareness, television up front, right in front of the mission director. Just asked to pull up the antenna configurations, trying to figure
Spark
out
653 acknowledged.
which one's pointing back toward Earth, which might be the best one to use. Towards the top of the show and during PDI, when things got a little spicy, we talked about multipath, Leah, and that's something that we expect to happen on the South Pole. It's something we learned from during IM-1, quite frankly, with Odie. Being on the surface and radio waves taking multiple paths to
Spark
get to the same
654 acknowledged.
destination.
I wonder what's going on.
Does seem very strange, doesn't it?
Well, viewers, if you've just joined us, we are awaiting confirmation that the Intuitive Machines IM-2 lander is safely on the surface of the moon. But there seem to be a few really
Multipath
strange
exists down on the lunar surface just because there are so many different ways. And during
Spark
IM-1, we were
655
sending out
acknowledged.
signals that were bouncing off the surface, bouncing off of craters, and making their way back to Earth. We took I think it was a Saturday and a Sunday. Mentioned Leah, Odysseus ended up breaking a leg and then laying down gently on the surface. But that communications does create a problem between multipath and learning about those things. Inside of Intuitive Machines' Lunar Data Network, it's comprised of ground stations all over the globe. The
All right,
largest
Spark,
one of
that's
them
good
being
work so far. What else we got?
the largest ones down in Australia. That is the Parkes Observatory. They call her Miri Yang down there, but that really is what helped us pick up those weak radio signals for IM-1. That's not the dish we're on right now, but it seems like we do have a great connection from the vehicle. I believe that dish we're using right now is GHY6 in Goonhilly, but I don't have that.
Goonhilly,
Hey, this is Prop. Can you confirm when it's
Goonhilly.
getting powered down?
Shout out for the Cornish.
Everything we can right now, Prop.
Copy.
They're powering down these systems aboard the lander because it does take quite a bit of energy to land, but we did hear good confirmation that we are also generating power.
Yeah, all these commands that are going to Spark. Spark is code for avionics, right? It's where our power is being allocated on the lander. And we've heard a lot of confirmations of things being turned off. We heard Dax Crane say we are generating solar power. At last check, we heard Mission Director call out to look at the antenna configuration on the room's situational awareness model screen. And we're still standing by to see where this is going to go.
Yes, it's a little bit concerning. I mean, considering when we did the
power
Blue
down the Ghost
Ghost
until we're ready to use it.
landing, we knew straight away what was actually occurring. So we'll just stay with them for a little while and just see if they can confirm. There's a few, I must admit, there's a few worried faces in the command center there.
The fact that the rocket engine seemed to have kept going past the point when it should have landed is a bit worrying. I'm just wondering whether the same thing has happened again, that it's fallen over on its side, which may have meant that the lander didn't know it.
It's about 20 minutes now since our intended landing time today. Again, we were
Well,
expecting that
they
around
did say
11:30 a.m.
that
Central.
the engine was still, and they still had pressure in the chamber that they were monitoring, and that could only happen if it was upright.
In Houston, Texas, just down the street from
If it
Johnson
goes
Space Center,
sideways,
continuing
then
to
everything
evaluate
shuts
the
down
status of
apparently.
the
So,
spacecraft.
but as you said, that engine did burn for a long time
Continuing
after
to
its
communicate
supposed
with the
landing time.
spacecraft itself.
So
Just
what it was
waiting
actually
for
doing was
potentially a
unsure.
photo that would
But
help us
this
confirm its
unfortunately doesn't
orientation.
sound too good, unfortunately. But
I'm just going to wait one and
we
listen
can
in for a
hope.
couple
I
cues
mean, there
coming
are a
into the
few worried
studio
faces
here.
there,
Bear
but
with us, folks.
Let's listen and find out what it is. It's definitely not nominal.
Thanks again, folks, for joining us for the IM-2 mission's landing coverage. I want to go over a few things we do have coming into the studio, into our ear, that we can confirm while the folks are working inside of Mission Control on their own challenges. But a couple things that we do have that we can confirm. Athena is on the surface of the moon. The team is going through the process of powering down systems that are not required. We heard the mission director call out that we do have solar charging, so we continue to hear them in our ear that they're turning off different systems that are not required. We are working to figure out the orientation of the vehicle, which is important because those are our antenna systems that will determine how much signal we're going to have and when we can start bringing down things like vehicle health data and other images that can help us to confirm. But we are communicating with the vehicle. We've heard throughout our intended landing time, through now different call outs, making it to the vehicle. We have direct communications contact.
It looks like
and
that
we
video
would tend to bring out some more information as we continue to assess this dynamic situation
Well, mate,
inside
is
of
the
Mission
video
Control.
jerky?
We intend to have
it's a bit
press
jerky. I think you might
conference
refresh it. I'm looking at it on
3
another
o'clock
screen,
Central
and it's
Time. That's
okay
4
there.
o'clock
Okay,
Eastern.
can you just
do it right over at Johnson
refresh
Space
that?
Center, Leah.
That's right. Thanks for joining us today.
And we'll have plenty of other information if anything else comes out on our website, as well as our X feed to keep everyone up to date. Thanks for joining us, folks.
And that's it. They're actually ending their stream.
Oh, so we'll have to wait then. That is very much a disappointing. Hopefully we'll call it to be okay, but we will just have to wait and see now. So yeah, that was a shame because it would have been nice to have confirmation that we had a second commercial lander on the moon.
Yes. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but you know, you have a situation where it's on the surface. As you said, if it were tipped over, then the engine wouldn't have kept firing. But then why did the engine keep firing?
exactly. It does seem.
Was there a sensor that didn't trip properly, or it's all a bit of a mystery, really. But the fact remains that it's not really behaved as it should have done, and obviously they're trying to scratch their heads and try and work out what happened.
I mean, while the engine was actually firing, we still had telemetry of a speed and of a height above the actual moon. So,
Absolutely.
you know, it just seems very, very strange. It's, but we will see. That will work the problems now, and then we will know. But as Ian said, maybe it's dug itself into the moon.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah, or we've even got ET has stolen the lander. But yeah.
Okay. Well, there's nothing much that we can do. Viewers, if you have any questions, then please do put them in the chat before we go. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. But as it stands, there's a lander sitting on the moon, but it doesn't appear to be tipped over. But nonetheless, there's been something strange about the whole landing. So there's nothing more we can tell you about that.
Yeah, I mean, we know the landing area was quite rough.
Yeah, well, it is. It's not a smooth sea of tranquility, nor an even smoother Mare Crisium where Blue Ghost landed. This is an exceptionally mountainous, rocky terrain near the south pole of the moon. Paul, we're with you. We hope they can get some science out of this.
Yeah,
but
because they got some. I think they got some science out of their first one, didn't they? For a while.
Yes, they did. They did, because even though it was on its side, they did manage to do some science.
Yeah. And then there was a Japanese one at the same time of that as well, wasn't there?
Yes,
but that went on for about a month or so, intermittently, because
it was upside down. It was upside down. It came down on its head.
But it kept recharging its batteries enough to send data back. Of course, the night time on here. How long's the night time on here? Is it?
It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So it kept coming back, and it survived about 4 what we call days or nights, 4 nights, and it came back and it kept producing data. So these things can survive, but it is, like I say, most of the problem is making sure that it can actually recharge its batteries.
Sure.
And this seems to be, they say they are getting some recharging, but they're saying they're also having to shut down systems to make sure. I mean, it could be the fact that it's actually landed somewhere and it's in the shade. You know, because like we said, this is a mountainous area, so
and don't forget, this was not being flown from Earth. This is a completely autonomous lander, like Blue Ghost, that decided for itself where it was going to land, and we'll have to see, what happens. So there's nothing more we can tell you at the moment, viewers. They've shut the stream off, which is a shame, because we would like to have hung on to await that confirmation, if it comes, that the lander is okay. But there's nothing more we can. Nothing more.
So we'll keep you in touch. We'll give you an update hopefully tonight when we come back for Starship launch. So
we will update you tonight. Don't forget, we're going live at 11:15 UK time tonight for the launch of Starship on its 8th test flight, and we hope to see you back soon. But obviously, Daz and I will keep our ear to the ground to listen for any further information. But
I mean, Ariane 6 seems to have been successful. They've deployed
at least we've had a
satellite.
Ariane launch today.
I don't know whether it's got to do another burn, a third burn for re-entry, but they've gone off air now, so we will see. Because hopefully, last time this is where it fell down, wasn't it? It didn't do it as a relight for its third time.
No, that's
and
right.
So it had an uncontrolled re-entry, which is a no-no these days. So
absolutely.
Just like to say hi to Ian Darth Card Convict.
Yes, hello Ian. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you
again. Thank you for dropping by. So we can't tell you anything else really. We're just going to have to wait for some news from Intuitive Machine. It will be a great shame if there is something wrong that prevents them deploying and experimenting with all of the payloads, because as you will have seen earlier, there are many different experiments and devices and God knows what else on this lander. And it will be sad to lose any of them because they're all very interesting payloads. And quite a few of them are experiments designed to prepare for future moon missions, especially human missions to the South Pole of the moon. So so there we are, but we will have to wait and see. So 11:15 tonight we go live, viewers. We hope to see you back then. In the meantime, from Daz and myself, thank you for being here this afternoon. Much appreciated. We'll see you back at 11:15 UK time this evening. Until then, we'd like to wish